So this song, The Secret of Life, is absolutely one of my all-time favorites. I love it. I always have. I play it all the time. And there, I'll tell you, really, when I'm traveling and I'm able to speak into my phone, I say, Siri, play The Secret of Life. And 5 minutes later, Siri, play The Secret of Life. So I really love it, and I hope you enjoyed it also. James Taylor, in the very first few lines of the song, nails the human condition. There is a line in the first verse where he says, "Nobody knows how we got to the top of the hill. But since we're on our way down, we might as well enjoy the ride." Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Who doesn't want to enjoy the ride? But have you ever had the experience where the ride isn't so enjoyable? I know I have. Matter of fact, it's not so much that the ride isn't enjoyable, it's that I try to control the ride, and that's where I get in trouble. So I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but what I realize happens for me, and maybe at one point or another happens for you, we fall for the great lie of the ego. If I worry enough, if I plan enough, if I micromanage enough, whatever it is, then I can control this situation and I can keep my life safe. Our reading today from Unity and from the Way of Mastery challenges us to do the most counterintuitive, terrifying, and at the same time, beautiful, exciting thing, to take our hands off the wheel, to relax, to surrender. Now, to the ego, surrender sounds like defeat. We got to just push on, we can control this, we don't have to give anything up. But in our spiritual journey, it's something entirely different. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. I want you to hear that subtle difference. It's giving over. It is a courageous, sacred yes to the divine. And I know in your own lives you've experienced that. It is the conscious decision to get out of the driver's seat of ego and worry and step fully into the flow of grace. Today we are going to look at how dropping our resistance actually unlocks our true spiritual power. I can't wait to dive in. Rev Renee mentioned last week, you might remember, I think it was Swan Creek was in her backyard, and she talked about how from the creek it went to the river and every place else it went, and it wound up at the ocean. That beautiful metaphor shows us the path of least resistance. And because the truth is, we cannot experience the flow of the river of life if we are constantly trying to dam it up, redirect it, and control it to our own will. Let me say that again. We cannot control the flow of the river of life if we're trying, I'll summarize it, block it, and stop it from doing its natural flow. And that brings me to the lesson that was driven home for Deb and I while we were on our way home from Florida. Now, we were driving and cruising along, having a grand old time, singing songs, The Secret of Life being one of them, and all of a sudden the car starts shaking. It's like a real vibration. It's clanking, and we kind of looking at each other like, what's going on? Oh, the heck with it. We have a destination. The destination, Santee, South Carolina. Why? Because we want to go to Clark's restaurant and we want to spend the night there and have some fun. That's something we do each time we're on the way to Florida and each time we're on the way home. So we did. We stopped. We had a great time. The next morning, we get up, and guess what? That noise had not gone away, and the vibration was still there. So as we were driving, now Deb was driving. She has the steering wheel, and she's driving, and she says, "And I think this is serious." And so I turned and I looked at her and I said, "Deb, I think you're right." So we just couldn't run anymore. We had to stop. So now we're getting ready to stop, and we pull off in a place called Manning, South Carolina. Don't know if you've been. We hadn't been. So now we pull off. We're off of I-95, and we're looking for a place to help us with our predicament. We found one. I want to show it to you. And Sandy, if you would pull, there it is. So I just, this picture, you can't see what the picture says, but I want you to imagine what we felt when we pulled in there, because we just didn't know what we were getting into. So here's what the sign says. It's not responsible for loss due to fire, theft, or break-in. So right away we're like, okay. And then there was another one warning customers to stay out of the customer service area, because guess what? They had no customer service area. There was no like air conditioner, beautiful seats that you could sit down in. There certainly wasn't any coffee selections. But what they did do for us, you see that black chair there, they pulled that, something similar, and another one, and they pulled it out on the grass. So we sat on the grass for hours while they figured out what was going on. And really, they were pretty wonderful. But what I want to tell you that happened was when they lifted it up onto the jack, or whatever that thing is they lifted up on, he calls me over. He says, you see this tire? I said, yeah. He goes, you see that metal sticking out from the side of it? I said, yeah. It wasn't just the radial, or whatever that's called, where you see a little piece of it. No, it was like a clump of wire sticking out of the side of the tire, which in reality could have been a very dangerous situation for us, right? So as we looked at the rest of the tires, we just made a decision to have them all changed, and we went back to our chairs in the grass and we sat there for a while. So the interesting part was, you know, we looked at that as a distraction for us that stopped us from our plan, but really, as it turned out, it was like almost a holy intervention for us, because I wish I could tell you that we actually followed the speed limit, you know, like 70 miles an hour, but the reality is sometimes we go a little faster than that, and a blowout at that speed would not have been a very pleasant experience. So we enjoy the fact that it was a divine intervention, and we just moved on. I will tell you something as a side note, so you know. Before we left in December, we had the car inspected and the tires checked. And before we left Florida in April, we brought it into a shop and had the tires rotated. So it caught us by complete surprise as to what had happened. And so right there, in the middle of that whole experience, James Taylor hands us another key. The central line of his song says, "The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time." So we had that wonderful opportunity to relax and to surrender to the moment. And I know you have had similar experiences in your life where you're headed somewhere, and something happens that interrupts that flow. So that's what happens sometimes when we feel stuck on the side of the road, or stuck in any life adventure for that matter. Our ego equates the passage of time with passivity, or productivity, I should say, rigid schedules, and getting to our destination. And when an unexpected delay happens, we can easily feel like our time is being stolen from us. And I know I have experienced that. But when we surrender, we know that all time is holy. The time sitting in an old office chair in a patch of weeds in Manning, South Carolina, is just as holy as sitting at Clark's restaurant eating this wonderful dinner, or whatever experience you might have. Think about that. It stops us from fighting the clock and allows us to simply be present. Sitting on that grass with Rusty, that was our cat, and watching him play, he was having a pretty good time. So we just knew all was well, and we actually really hit a good spot. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. James Taylor gives us another beautiful clue later in the song when he sings, "The secret of love is in opening up your heart." It's okay to feel afraid, but don't let that stand in your way. And that might be one of the clearest descriptions of surrender there is. because surrender is not the absence of concern. It's choosing love and trust, even when the logistics are uncertain. Yeah, think about that for a minute. It is the conscious choice to remain open after a disappointment. It is trusting again after loss. It is remaining tender in a world that encourages us at times to harden up. So I invite you to, of course, let your heart continue to open as we're spending time together, because both unity and the way of mastery remind us that the ego loves to contract. When we face uncertainty, we psychologically tighten up. It's just the way we do. We try to block out the world. Why? To keep ourselves safe. But our true nature, our spiritual nature, is divine expansion. Surrender is simply the movement from that tight human contraction into divine openness. So as we stood in the parking lot one more time, we felt a concern about the cost, the time, the unknown. We didn't know those folks. We didn't know those mechanics. But I want to tell you, they stopped everything they were doing in that moment, and they gave direct attention to our vehicle. They didn't even have the tires in stock. The owner of the place got in his truck and went to wherever they got tires and brought them back. So it was just a moment. You know, we surrendered to the need to control that darn timeline, and the single act of trust and surrender had us feeling safe and knowing that everything would work out. And this, I'm doing the pivot here, this brings us directly to the scripture in Philippians today. The Apostle Paul writes, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." So as you think about that, I'm taking a sip. The question is, what is the mind of Christ? You see, sometimes we talk about Jesus as if he walked through life on a cloud, forever calm, never stressed, completely immune to the human experience. But if you read the stories closely, we see a man who felt the full weight of being human. He got tired. He got overwhelmed, so overwhelmed that he took a trip into the mountains so he could be by himself for a while. He felt deep grief, and he wept openly. Jesus had a full human life, just like you and me, with all the clanging noises and unexpected detours. Having the mind of Christ means embracing our human lives, our vulnerabilities, our mistakes, everything, all of it, and realizing that we don't have to be perfect to be in alignment with God. It is that part of us that remains calm when the world feels chaotic, knowing that we are safe and we are loved and we are supported, no matter what the logistics look like. In unity, the Christ mind is the divine blueprint that is already present within each of us. I want you to look at these words on the screen behind me. It reminds us of who we truly are. Beneath all of our life events, this does come from the way of mastery. I live, yet not I, but Christ dwells in me. Therefore I submit and surrender to the truth that is true always. My fulfillment comes only from allowing Christ, and I say the Christ that is within me and the Christ that is within you, to be given to the world. What a beautiful permission slip this is. It echoes a profound truth that the way of mastery says, that our only real job this week isn't to struggle, to be perfect, or to force things to go our way. Your only job, if you elect to accept it, is to relax, step out of the way, and simply allow the Christ presence that is you, the very life of God within you, to flow naturally out into the world. Because not a single one of us has to be the general manager of the universe this week, okay? That job, my friends, is already taken, all right? So what if the invitation today is simply to rest in the beautiful mystery of spirit? Yeah, the beautiful mystery of spirit. As the song says, Einstein said he could never understand it all. The planets spinning through space. Oh, my goodness, and the smile upon your face. Welcome to the human race. We don't have to understand the mechanics of the universe to trust that it is holding us again and supporting us. We can just allow. So my friends, my beautiful friends, I have something beautiful that I want you to think about this week. What would it feel like to travel a little lighter this week? What if we could just all put down whatever we've been carrying right where you are, right now? If it feels right for you, I invite you to join me in a simple physical experiment. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears. Just give it a go. Hold it there. Hold that tension for a brief moment. And notice how the extra work is hard to hold everything up for ourselves. Now I invite you to take a deep breath. Make a sound. And as you relax your shoulders, yes, you can do that now. Make some noise on the exhale. Isn't that a beautiful feeling when the shoulders drop and relax? So did you hear that sound of that exhale? Yeah, that was the sound of relief. Anytime you practice your breath, you can relax into the moment. Because again, the true secret of life isn't about rushing to the next moment or managing the weight of the world. Let it go. You got enough going on just managing your own experience, right? It might just be true. The secret of life is simply enjoying the passage of time and being fully present in the now moment. So today, I simply invite you into a lighter way of living. Remember, you don't have to walk this alone. Right here in this very community, you have support. Within you, the spirit within you is a support. And so let's take this lightness with us into the coming week. When things get busy or feel overwhelming, we can stop. What can we do? Breathe and recall our true center. I invite you in a moment to join your voice with mine. The words will be right here on the screen. And so before we do that, let's take a breath. And Sandy, if you would put up that next slide, thank you. Yes. I'm going to invite you to say this like you really mean it. Here we go. I choose a courageous, sacred yes to the divine. And so now let's tamp it down a little bit. I invite you to whisper it to yourself. I choose a courageous, sacred yes to the divine. By George, I think you've got it.